Living in the Present, Part 3. Do we allow Jesus to have a place in the boat of our existence? Are we asleep thinking that Jesus is the one sleeping? We can change our attitudes, change our perceptions of things, have changes in mood. Let's be moved by God and marvel once more. Max Dora, who is a philosopher, and of which I didn't read all his books. I didn't read a book, but I do find this part interesting nevertheless. He says, nothing is more surprising than a change of mood. Nothing is more important. While this may seem excessive, I maintain it. I drove a day of sad thoughts, having lost all confidence in myself, in my intellectual abilities, desperately searching for a cure for my anxiety. I knocked on every door, and the only one where I could go, I would have looked in vain for 100 years. Bumped into me unwittingly and miraculously, it opened. Then suddenly came back my appetite for life, vanished my doubts about myself, my concern about the future. Everything was possible again. End of quote. Now, everything is possible with Jesus. Sometimes we need to decide to return to the natural foundation of our person, and our attitude changes. We need to change our mood. Daring more in the present than think to absolutely change our future or keep put in the den of the past allows us to live in serenity. We realize much more than we dared to dream. It also takes a firm decision to let the love of God arise in our life. In Isaiah's book, it's written, I am doing something new. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? In the desert I make a way, in the wasteland, rivers. God promises us that if we offer Him our life, He will bring us back to our original state, our personal reality. God keeps His promise. Jesus acts with our consent. Paul emphasizes this point. Our word to you is not yes and no. Imagine how it's strange and disturbing to say yes and no at the same time. Yes, Jesus, but no, Jesus. Yes, Jesus, we believe that you saved us. And no, Jesus, we do not believe, because we believe that you do not save. Yes, life, but no life. Yes, daring, but no daring. Yes, chocolate cake, but no chocolate cake. It's desirable to believe more strongly that Jesus acts and saves us, that our yes be yes now. The yes with God is lived now. May your yes mean yes and your no mean no, says Jesus in Matthew. The greatest danger for our life is to say no to God. Saying no to God is cutting faith at its source. Nothing remains alive if it's taken away from the source. Saying yes to God does miracles and transforms our life. This is classic during the elections for a future leader of the country to remind voters that there will be changes. This is usually what people want to hear, and very often, not all the time, these changes are disappointing. But the ultimate transformation, the ultimate change, is realized in our life through Jesus, with Jesus, in Jesus, and for Jesus. Paul says to the Galatians, for freedom Christ set us free. So stand firm and do not submit again to the yoke of slavery of the past or into the future. Let's not get caught there. The presence of God invades us with joy. He offers what leads to freedom and what keeps away from slavery. May we not go back in chains. Let's not go back in hate, evil. Let's keep out of our slavery, our bad habits, what holds us captive, illusions, idols of all kinds, which they keep us away from life in God. Even if the transformation may seem long, let's dare to process. Let's prepare our heart. Let's sow the seeds of love. Let's live fully in the moment and leave to Jesus what haunts us, what confuses us. Let's offer to Jesus the chains of our slaveries, because he offers to save and liberate humanity from evil and debt. It's now for us to choose life or slavery, life or death. May we be in peace. Let's dare to say yes to an improved life offered by Jesus. Those who go out weeping, it says in the psalm, bearing the seed for sowing, shall come home with shouts of joy, carrying their sheaves. How many times during our life we could say these words? Those who go out weeping, bearing the seeds for sowing, shall come home with shouts of joy, carrying their sheaves. All humans live this reality without exception. Each of our days lies between these two realities of tears and joy. The pilgrimage into joy is an effort that results by being in the light of God. Let's become aware of the moments in our life when it's difficult to place our trust in God and live in the present. We have possibly lost confidence in some people, but God is not these people. May we step inside the trust in God, because God has not lost confidence in us. Let's listen to the voice of John the Baptist crying out in the wilderness, "Prepare the way of the Lord, make straight his paths." Let's prepare our heart to be liberated from slaveries, and may we enter the pathway of peace and joy of God. We have the right to be happy, even if sometimes sad situations or people flatten us against suffering. It is written, Barak, "Up, Jerusalem, stand upon the heights, look to the east and see your children gathered from the east and the west at the word of the Holy One, rejoicing that they are remembered by God." This leads to another passage in Barak. "Jerusalem, take off your robe of mourning and misery. Put on the splendor of glory from God forever." May we sing and dance in our heart to live the joy of the present moment. This is Paul's prayer in Philippians, that your love may increase forever more in knowledge and every kind of perception, to discern what is of value, so that you may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ for the glory and praise of God. Our pilgrimage in faith encourages us to meet with the Lord. May we discern what is essential to remain in God. And if events of this life make us sad, the goal we set in God will be established in great joy. Jesus offers life, truth, and he wants us to remain on the path leading to where the saints have gone before us in the Father's kingdom. May we keep our heart in listening to the will of God. Let's renew our yes to God every morning. The book of Ecclesiastes recalls that even if we think we have achieved everything during lifetime, we are not yet satiated, we are not satisfied, and we are still trying to find a way to happiness. Ecclesiastes realizes that even though his life seems successful, he has possibly missed the most important, his relationship with God. He says he has made everything appropriate to its time and has put the timeless into their hearts, without men ever discovering from beginning to end the work which God has done. God is infinitely greater, more accurate, and more present than anything we want to achieve in all that we observe in our life. Though we study the stars in the universe, God is immeasurable and greater than the whole of it. We realize that we lose a lot of time during life on earth. Now we understand that the key is in God. There is a time for everything. Win, lose. Love, loving ourselves. Be loved. Listen to ourselves. To be heard. There is an appointed time for everything, and a time for every affair under the heavens, says the Ecclesiastes. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot the plant, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. There's also a time for God, and that time is now. He transforms our life to the extent that we realize that He is present in our life. Otherwise, we compromise ourselves with what is passing by. Then we risk failing. To love, yes, but without resourcing in God, we become increasingly dry, hopeless, and loveless. There's a time to love. This time is now. And this time is in eternity with God. Do we feel it? Jesus leads to what's essential. This is the time, the right time, right now, to allow God to put His hand on our life in order to obtain the promised eternal life. Let's work to survive on earth, but especially our immediate working is for our salvation and be ready to live forever. And why not now in God? Our time on earth will progress more easily here in eternity because God is with us. May we live in the present and let God love us. I propose to you a mission. You surely have a mission already. Feel free to do it if you want. If every person in the church found one person a year to invite to church, the church members would double in a year. I suggest that you pray for someone from your parish who does not come to church. You can also ask the Lord to help you find that person for whom you're going to pray. And there's no need to tell that person. Let's see what will happen during the year. God bless everyone, and may God's love be in everyone's heart.